this is something that really helped me. The last day of the year is my favorite day of the year. And people go, what, it's not Christmas, it's not your birthday, it's not, whatever. And I'm like, no, it's the last day of the year. And they ask me why. Why is that? Because the last day of the year gives me two opportunities. The first one is reflection.
Mm-hmm.
I get to look at the entire year and look at what I've accomplished, the things I think I did well, the things I think I could have done better. I get to refocus on things. I call it my 5 pillars, that hold my world up.
Mm-hmm.
And I focus on those 5 pillars, and I look at, how I could have done better and structured them better to where my pillars are stronger, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I get to look
Mm-hmm.
at the whole year, because we forget to look back and go, how far have I come?
Yeah.
How much have I accomplished? We always stay in the moment and go, oh, I got so much to do. Well, yeah, but you thought that a year ago. Oh, I got
Mm-hmm.
so much. Well, you accomplished all these things. So just having the moment to have a day where I look back and I go, wow, what did we accomplish in my personal life? What did I accomplish in business, my money, my faith, my relationships? What did I accomplish in all those? And what could I have done better too? I mean, that's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I write all of that out. And that's another key. If anybody's listening to this, write your stuff down. I
Mm-hmm.
filled out, I don't know, I think 10 legal pads this year of just notes and things that I was thinking, or goals and those type of things. Just writing it out. It just gets it out of your head. And then I get to look at next year, and I get to look at what is possible. What can I create? Where can I go? It's not putting my happiness in those things. It's going, I'm only happy when I'm doing something. If you have a vision in your mind that keeps popping up, a dream that keeps popping up, that is the proof of future reality.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It means if you take action toward it, you will eventually create that reality. But first you have to create that reality in your mind. So you create that vision of exactly what you want. Man, it's going to be like this. I'm going to, whatever, I'm working towards a certain thing. And you create this vision statement. It ends up being about a good paragraph. But then every day I read it, I focus on those things and I emotionalize those things. And then guess what happens? My mind, because it's trying to create this vision, will pick up things on every day. It's called the reticular activating system, but
Mm-hmm.
it'll pick things up day by day, moment by moment, and you will start making different decisions automatically because your brain is trying to reach that vision that you've already created in your mind.
That's powerful. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
And that's exactly the way your mind works. Your mind will automatically pick up on the things that you were focusing on. Well, as a child, both of my parents worked. I grew up in a small town, very family oriented type of community, more cows than people type of
Mm-hmm.
area. So the dinner table was pretty active, let's say, with people coming and going. I have 2 younger sisters, and my dad worked constantly. I mean, he just was working all the time. My mom had a job and was also working quite a bit. So, there was a lot of this work ethic that was brought in, but
Mm-hmm.
dinner table time was hurried a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
But family did try to get together and have family dinners. But I think I learned a lot about life and business and money and those type of things around that area. And I can see a lot of my own habits that were formed from a young age.
Mm-hmm. What types of habits, like, you don't have to go into them in detail, but just at a high level, what types of habits have you noticed that you've, sort of picked up and were instilled in you in an earlier age, or from an earlier age?
Well, one of the things was a work ethic, and people hear work ethic a lot, but what I mean by that is it's part of who I am as a person. It's my inner emotional side is I have to produce something. I have to be working on something.
Mm-hmm.
I recently spoke with my financial advisor, and he asked me when I wanted to retire. And I asked him what his definition of retirement was. And he said, when do you want to stop working? And I said, I will never stop working. I
Yeah.
believe that we are here to produce something.
Mm-hmm.
And when I've seen it over and over in my own personal, I have a practice, integrated medical practice, and I've seen it with patients that they retire and then they just give up on life. They have no
Yeah.
purpose
Slip away.
to.
Yeah.
So that was one. It gave me that drive to want to work. But then the way I was raised, my dad, he basically thought it would be the best way to raise me was to constantly push me. So there was never a good job or well done or that's good enough. It was always, well, you could have done a little better. You could have done a little
Hmm.
more, which is good and bad. But it also gave me a drive of how good can I be? How much can I accomplish in
Hmm.
life?
Hmm.
So I mean, those are some things that I learned.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. That's a great perspective of, I've heard of, what some might say is, tough parents, right? They, it was never good enough, and you can look at it as a negative, way, but it was, you can look at it as a positive where, like you said, how far can I push it? How much can I achieve? So,
Yeah.
I'm glad you phrased it that way. That was great.
Well, and you're exactly right, because up until I was about 2021, because you don't want to disappoint your parents,
Right.
So basically what that did to me growing up like that was it gave me very little self-confidence until I was about
Mhm.
2021. And when I met my wife, um, she actually pointed out that all the things that I had going for me were extreme. Like she's like, you're an amazing person. Oh my gosh, look at all this stuff. And I had never taken that into consideration up until that
Yeah.
point. No one had ever said to me, you're an amazing person. Wow, look at all the things that you have accomplished up to this point and
Yeah.
all that you can do and can are capable of. And so that was kind of an awakening of me in my
I
early
love that.
20s. Wow, I am a cool person. And then I started to believe it. And
Yeah.
then I was able to, move forward. But, until you believe it, nothing happens.
Exactly. That's very true. That's very true. And like you said, it was there, and you never, nobody ever pointed it out to you. So that's incredible. So obviously, I'm assuming you probably went to college. Yes, you did that whole path, or
Yeah, I graduated high school. I was one of the youngest people in my class just because my parents started me early in school, probably wanted to get me out of the house. I was pretty
yeah.
out. And graduated high school. I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to become a chiropractor. I went to 2 years of undergrad, played a little baseball, and decided, I'm probably not going to make it pro statistically. So I
Hmm.
think I'm going to go to grad school. So I started grad school. I was just 19 when I started. I graduated with a doctorate at 23. And
Wow.
yeah, and then during that 3 to 4 year period where I was going to grad school, I decided to go ahead and get married, and then we had a kid, and you know,
Hmm. Yeah.
thought maybe grad school wasn't hard enough. Let's add getting
Yeah.
married.
Right.
So then I graduated at 23. My daughter was like 4 months old, and then about 6 months later, I started a practice.
Hmm.
Um, and so started moving in the right direction. Now I thought I was 23. I thought I knew something about a practice. I thought I knew something about starting a business, but in reality, I didn't know anything from anything. Knowing what I know now,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing what
So
I've learned.
I,
Yeah.
I'm curious, now reflecting back on your own life, are you pushing your daughter as much as what you were pushed growing up, would you say?
Um, no, I have a much different style. Instead of telling my daughter and focusing on the things that she could have done better,
Hmm.
um, I have a lot better communication style as far as explaining. So I have a 13-year-old son. My daughter's 16, and I if she is ever in trouble, let's say, I
Hmm.
explain, realize why you are in trouble, or do you realize why you're being corrected? And here's the better way, or asking her questions. What would be a better way to handle that situation? So
Hmm.
she, and so, those are things I learned in my 20s, but I wish I could have learned, when I was younger. So both
Yeah.
of my, um, no, I have a very different style of parenting, and I don't blame. See, you could take your everybody looks at their childhood, and you could take your childhood two different ways. You could
Hmm.
blame, and that's the victim role. Like, oh, I'm the way I am because my parents, they could have done better. Or you can take the role of taking responsibility and saying, well, I'm grateful for that because it made me who I am today. And if they would have been different, I would have been different. And I very rarely will ever take the woe is me victim, like,
Yeah.
I take responsibility for me and who I am. And if I want to change it, then I change it. I don't blame somebody else. So I can't change because of that. I say, no, I have the power to change me. Therefore, I'm going to work towards that. And a lot of people look at their childhood and say, oh, my parents could have done better. But in most cases, the parents were doing the best they could
Hmm.
based on their knowledge. You know,
Hmm.
like if the parent was around, they're probably doing what they think is right and doing the best they can. Because you have to
Yeah.
understand, those parents had the same stressors and things that you were trying to deal with. If you're a parent right now, or if you're in an entrepreneurship role, or so you got to take that in consideration and step into their shoes for just a moment and say, were they trying to do good or were they trying to be a jerk? And most of the time,
Yeah.
they were there.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. Again, great perspective on being able to look back and adapt it to your own your own situation now. I love that. So you started your practice, and you said that there were some things that you thought you understood or thought you knew about. Real briefly, touch on some of those things that might have been more mistakes or things that sort of stuck out that God, looking back, if I could have done this differently, when I was opening up my practice, anything, come to mind as far as,
Oh yeah,
what that would entail?
100%. Well, I mean, there's a couple things. Number one, I would have figured out and perfected my vision of what I wanted.
Hmm.
And the way to do that is to observe other people, experience other things. So what I should have done is I should have created a vision of what I thought I wanted, and then go to people that are already doing those things and experience what they were experiencing and ask questions and interview those people to figure out what I liked and what I didn't like. I did a
Hmm.
little bit of that, but I
Hmm.
should have done a lot of that. Figuring out who you are, being everything you're not type deal. Have
Yeah.
you ever heard that?
Yeah.
It's figuring out what kind of life you want to build by experiencing other people's perspective of their lives. So
Hmm.
I wish I would have went around to other practices and been like, what do I like about this? What don't I like about this? And spent a couple of years experiencing different things like that, in order to understand what kind of life I wanted to build.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, and I do some personal coaching with people, and a great example of that is one of the things we have people write down is their vision of what they want and make it as clear as possible. And
Hmm.
so that vision, and this person in particular said, well, I want to own a Ferrari. And I said, oh, why is that? And he said, man, I've always just wanted a Ferrari ever since I was a kid. Okay. I said, have you ever been in a Ferrari? He said, no. I said, have you ever touched a Ferrari? No. So he created this idea from when he was a kid, but he's never experienced it. So I
Hmm.
said, go to a dealership, touch the Ferrari, sit in the Ferrari, have him start the Ferrari, whatever. So after he did that, he came back and he goes, I don't want a Ferrari.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Think about the pain of thinking you want something and then you work so hard and you end up getting it. And then you're like, this
Yeah.
isn't everything I thought it was going to be. The
Right.
disappointment, oh, the pain. And so he just, we just headed off years of his life in a direction or trajectory, just simply by experiencing something and then
Hmm.
going, no, this isn't really part of my vision. He ended up getting an Aston Martin, by the way. That was what he actually ended up wanting. But
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I was gonna um, ask you too. He ultimately ended up getting a car, right? And that was the original focus. Did he, when you went through that exercise and he realized I don't want a Ferrari, did he retarget himself more on something else? Is it more experiential, or was there still something else attached to it, some physical thing that he was still striving toward? I'm just curious, like, did it
yeah,
did it switch
so
from a thing to an experience or a goal helping someone or something along those lines?
some people it probably would. In his case, he just decided, he went to a car dealership and was like, actually, I don't want a Ferrari. And so he went to other ones, but it was like the idea that he wanted was a car.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ferrari, it was a nice car. Well, he finally settled on some other type of car. But I think a lot of people, it could morph, it could change. And that's what people don't understand too about setting goals and looking into the future is those things, if you don't revisit them all the time, they do change.
Hmm.
I wanted to a couple of years ago, I wanted to be able to dunk a basketball. Okay. And I just wanted to. And
Mhm.
so, I worked out really hard and whatever. And I was really close to it. But then what I realized was I don't really actually want to dunk a basketball. I just wanted to be more athletic. And I
Mhm.
ended up dunking a softball, but my hands, I'm not
Yeah.
huge.
Yep. Yeah.
And so it was like, why am I going towards this goal of dunking a basketball when in reality it was just to be more athletic and to be stronger so I could jump higher and all this stuff. And so I was able to dunk a softball and I was like, oh, that's good enough. It wasn't actually the basketball. But I
Mhm.
realized that through the process. The reason why I said a basketball is because I have a friend, he's 5'10, he's really in shape, and he dunked a basketball. Now his hands were a little bit bigger and whatever, but the point is that I learned through the process, and the ultimate goal I thought in the beginning was dunking a basketball, but in reality it was the athletic side of that. And
Mhm.
so I wasn't wrong for going towards it, but I rehashed it and relooked at it constantly every month until I perfected my vision of what exactly I wanted.
Mhm.
And that's what people mistake. They think, oh, you set a goal and you go towards that goal. No, you set a goal and you move towards it, and then you correct and you make changes and you alter it. You're a person. You're not static. You're going
Yeah.
to and you're going to learn things along the way, and then you're going to go, well, maybe that goal's changing a little bit and altering. I mean, my goal used to be to have $1 million, but and I thought that was like the end. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But Tony Robbins a long time ago made a great statement. He said, $1 million gets old. And at the time I was like, how is that even? I don't understand until I was there.
Mhm.
And then it was like, that isn't the end. Like, so now I'm like, okay, well, how can I get to where we're doing 10 million? And then when I get there, I'm going to go, well, how can we get to 30 and 50 and 100? See, people put their happiness into the future instead of understanding that now is when you have happiness.
Mhm.
You can have a goal, but that's not where happiness is, because you will always reach that goal and then put your happiness to the next goal.
Yeah.
So happiness is I'm happy and content with working toward a goal. Whether I hit that goal or not does not define me or my happiness. And I think that's another mistake people make. I see all the time is
Yeah.
they put a goal, and if they don't hit it, they're, oh, I'm a failure. No, you're not. We are
Yeah.
people. We fail, but we're not failures. The only failure is quitting, to me.
I love that. I love that. And you sort of brought up a topic that we were just talking about a couple of days ago in another episode, where people set this goal, and it's normally a monetary goal, and you go and reach that goal, and then there's another goal. And what this gentleman had said, which I completely identify with, is we're and you mentioned it too. Now that I think about it, is in those situations you're always you have a broke mindset, right? You're always like, this is the next goal, and then I can have this, and I can buy this, and all of that. And you're always pushing off your happiness. There's always going to be something else that you're going to say, oh, now I need this, and now I need that, and now I need whatever this other thing is.
Mm-hmm.
So live in the moment now, and realize, be thankful, realize how much you have right now, and appreciate what you've accomplished today. Find happiness, find joy in that, and the next things will come. Don't
Yep.
necessarily focus on those specific things.
Yeah, this is something that really helped me. The last day of the year is my favorite day of the year. And people go, what, it's not Christmas, it's not your birthday, it's not, whatever. And I'm like, no, it's the last day of the year. And they ask me why. Why is that? Because the last day of the year gives me two opportunities. The first one is reflection.
Mm-hmm.
I get to look at the entire year and look at what I've accomplished, the things I think I did well, the things I think I could have done better. I get to refocus on things. I call it my 5 pillars that hold my world up. And
Mm-hmm.
I focus on those 5 pillars, and I look at, how I could have done better and structured them better to where my pillars are stronger, if that makes sense. So I get to look
Mm-hmm.
the whole year, because we forget to look back and go, how far have I come?
Yeah.
How much have I accomplished? We always stay in the moment and go, oh, I got so much to do. Well, yeah, but you thought that a year ago. Oh, I got so
Mm-hmm.
much. Well, you accomplished all these things. So just having the moment to have a day where I look back and I go, wow, what did we accomplish in my personal life? What did I accomplish in business, my money, my faith, my relationships? What did I accomplish in all those? And what could I have done better too? I mean, that's another thing.
Mhm.
And I write all of that out. And that's another key. If anybody's listening to this, write your stuff down. I
Mhm.
filled out, I don't know, I think 10 legal pads this year of just notes and things that I was thinking or goals and those type of things, just writing it out. It just gets it out of your head. And then I get to look at next year and I get to look at what is possible. What can I create? Where can I go? It's not putting my happiness in those things. It's going, I'm only happy when I'm doing something,
Mhm.
when I'm
Mhm.
moving, when I'm growing as a person, growing my business, growing my relationships. If you're staying stagnant, you're dying. Everything in this world is either growing or dying.
Yeah.
That's the way. So if I look at my business and it stays the exact same with the exact same revenue forever, it's gonna eventually die. Inflation's gonna catch up,
Yeah.
taxes are gonna catch up. So I look at next year and go, what can I accomplish? And then I start writing out my goals. My wife and I
Mhm.
do this every year on our own personal, like, what do we want to do to the house? What kind of trips do we want to take? What things do we want to accomplish as a couple together? And so it all aligns to create a vision and an excitement for the
Mhm.
future, something to move toward, not, well, I hope I make more money next year. Well, that's not very exciting. How
Yeah.
much money? I win. How are you going to do it? What steps are you going to take? Start asking questions. I think we forget to ask questions and start analyzing and really looking at things. We get so caught up in ourselves that we just go, well, that's just the way it is. Well, is it? Is there
Yeah.
something different that a different way you could look at it? So I kind of rambled, but anyway, the last day of the year is my personal favorite day of the year.
I love that. And you mentioned you in the middle there, and I think you may have gone through them, but you said the five pillars that you
Yeah.
sort of revolve your life around. What are those five pillars?
Okay. So I look at my finances, which these are not in order, by the way,
Mhm. Yep.
but
Yep.
finances, I need to know, you got to know where your money is. Okay. I look at my business.
Mhm.
Okay. So I own a business. Now you can have your own business within whatever, but I own businesses. I have three of them. And so I look at that, my relationships,
Mhm.
and that includes business relationships, my wife, my kids, the relationships that I have in my life. And you can separate that out more, but I try to keep things simple. Um, my faith,
Mhm.
and to me, the relationship with your maker or the life source or the light or God or whatever you want to call it. So my faith, and then my health or my fitness level. Health and fitness are kind of together. So there's some of them you could break out on your own, but I keep it to those five
Mhm.
because I like to keep things simple. And I just look at, where am I at? And I rank them from 0 to 10. 0 to 10, 10 is I'm doing freaking amazing. I'm hitting my goals. This is awesome. 0 is I am just terrible. I'm not making it at all. And
Yeah.
it just take a step back and allows you a moment to go, where am I at? So you can see how balanced your first floor of your life is,
Mhm. Mhm.
where you're at. So I think a lot of people, they get strong in business sometimes and they're focused on their business but their relationships crumble. Some people are focused on their money so much, and so money and business a lot of times go together, but then they don't their health goes to crap. So you have to have all of those things in order to really have a strong, secure life.
Mhm.
And any of those things are failing, it's going to start dragging other parts of your life down.
Mhm.
And I can tell you, I've experienced the most joy when all of those things are running extremely well. Now, how do I get all of those? I find mentors. I find people who are already, exhibiting the character traits of what I want to develop. So I
Mhm.
find that have great relationships with their kids and great relationships with their wives or spouse. I find people who have great finances, great businesses, and I start modeling them and mimicking them in order to create that in my own life. So I don't have to figure it out. I can just go, well, what do they do? Oh,
Yeah.
they do, so, and that's what I mean by experience. You experience things through other people. So they've already made mistakes and you can learn from them, implement the good from your life in your life, remove the bad. And there you go. You've got a life that you love living.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. When you go out and seek the people that you're looking to emulate, or looking to model your life after, are you actually going out and this might depend upon which pillar it is, but are you actually hiring them as a mentor, or are maybe your best friend has a great relationship with his wife, or her wife, whatever, or her, what I mean.
Yeah.
um
So
is
it's a little of both sometimes. I hire mentors on a regular basis. I hire coaches, life coaches.
Mhm,
I don't think if I'm going to be a life coach, if I'm going to create content to help people, that's what Dr. G's personal coaching and my own, that side of it is. I believe that I need to practice what I preach in that. And so I hire coaches to have a different perspective. I mean, the most successful people I've ever met all had coaches.
mhm,
Why?
mhm,
Because they look at it from a different perspective. They're out of the weeds. They're looking at it from a different way. Um, but I tend to hire personal coaches or mentorships in areas that I lack understanding.
mhm,
Um, so in some instances, I learn a lot from people through their podcasts, through their books, through their content, that sort of thing. In other aspects, like for instance, I am not great with social media.
mhm,
I'm
mhm.
just I don't know. I'm good at talking. I can put it up, but as far as the social
Getting it out
media,
there, yeah.
when to post, how to post, when do you boost, how to track the numbers, all that. So I hired somebody to help me and mentor me in that. So it taught me a skill that I didn't currently have.
Mhm,
And so that was somebody, but he also had a great relationship with his wife. So, there was a lot of alignment. I don't just hire anybody, I vet them. What I mean is I ask questions and I see their history and I look at their content and does it match what I
mhm,
want?
mhm,
Um, and so everybody should do that. I think, there's not one coach for everybody. There's different styles and there's different whatever, and everybody's got their own skill set. And so you got to figure out what you don't know, and you figure that out through experiencing things in life. And keep in mind, as an entrepreneur, if you look up the definition of entrepreneurship, it's about taking risk, especially financial risk. Look it up. It actually says entrepreneurship, financial risk, above and beyond the normal. But remember, you're not a failure unless you quit. Failing is a part of learning. You're
mhm.
just learning. That's all it is. If you stop calling it failure, you start, well, what can I learn from that? That's my favorite question. What can I learn from this?
Mhm.
What am I supposed to be learning? So that you go, oh, I learned this. So next time I will be better off in this situation. So then I don't make the same mistake. I
Yeah.
think the biggest problem or issue with a lot of people is they miss out on that opportunity by blaming or by whatever. They don't ask questions about, well, what could I have done better? Take some
Yeah.
responsibility. It is what it is, man. Just
I love it. I love it. And we as you're going through creating your end of the year summary synopsis, if you will, and you're looking forward into creating your goals for next year. Do you have any advice on how to create a goal that stretches you? Of course, you don't want to make it so easy that you're going to achieve it
yeah.
soon. But you also don't want to necessarily put something like a future goal. You can make that way out in the future. But I'm assuming you probably break it down like, this is what I want to accomplish this year, or within the near term. Any advice on how to establish what that may be? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I can give you what I do. Okay. So I don't, going back on what I said before, I don't put my happiness in the goal achievement.
Hmm.
Okay. So I will set goals that may not be reachable.
Okay.
And that is against the common mantra. The common mantra is set goals that are attainable.
Yeah.
Well, they do that because their happiness is in the attainment of the goal. My happiness is not. My happiness is in the pursuit of the goal.
Hmm.
So, 2 years ago, um, I was doing around $300,000 in business in my company, and my income was not even close to where I wanted it to be, until I started to learn from other people and started implementing things. And now we're going to do over 1 million. And next year, we're probably going to do close to 2,
Hmm.
because of my mentality. It shifted. The goal is not the happiness is not the result that I'm looking for. The goal is something I'm moving toward. Grant Cardone is a one of my favorite mentors to listen to, and there's a lot that I like that he does. And here's another little side tip: just because they're a mentor doesn't mean you have to have everything in alignment. There's a lot that he does, and I'm like, oh, I agree with that. That's amazing. That's cool. I can implement that in my own life. But there's some things I'm like, yeah, that's not for me.
Yeah.
But anyway, something he said that I really liked. He's like, his goal is to be is for everyone on the planet to know his name. Okay, now is that attainable? Probably not. He's actually said that. Probably not. But it's what we're shooting for.
Yeah.
But the happiness isn't in the attainment of that goal. It just changes your perspective on how you're going to go about. Okay, am I going to try to do this to reach my goal, or am I going to try to do this to reach everyone on the planet? So it just changes your perspective. So for me, when I look at the next year, I do a goal that makes sense. So like if I looked at my business, I would take the best average of the best 3 months that we had and say, okay, we want to try to hit our goal to be that every month. So then next year we can do the same thing and same thing. And so we take the best 3 months and we do the average and we say, how can we work towards hitting that as a goal? Now, if we did that in the first quarter, do you think I'm just going to be like, okay, let's just ride out the rest of the year? No, I'm going to say, what is the best month that we had? And how can we achieve that goal if you multiplied that by 12?
Yeah.
So we have a reachable goal, and then we have a let's try to go for this goal. And then we have, well, let's add 10% to that and see how we can hit that. So our overall goal is, let's see if we can hit 10% above the best month times 12 that we did last year. Now that's on the business side. That's how I do it. We may not reach that goal. That's a pretty far stretch for most people, but that's what we're going for. That you think differently, like
I love it.
Yeah. If somebody wants to raise $10,000, I say, well, try to raise 100,000, because even if you hit 50% of your goal, you're raising 5 times more money than you originally thought you were going to raise anyway. I mean, you just think differently. So I think people set their goals too low because they're afraid that if they don't hit the goal, they're going to be upset and disappointed, and that'll make them lose their drive. They're thinking incorrectly.
Yeah. I love that. And it's so interesting. You sort of are still, you still have the same mentality or the same mindset that you grew up, where you're pushing yourself. You're never settling for, just what you think you can have. You keep pushing. So I love how that's still all connected and flowing together, if you will. Do you have any things that you're, thinking about adding to the 5 pillars? Do you feel satisfied with the 5-pillar, philosophy? Is there anything like, well, maybe this can get added in there or anything like that? I'm just curious if you have, something that, might be, sort of on the side that, maybe you're thinking about adding into it.
If I say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right. I just, that works for me. Some people like to break those out. I've worked with some people. They're like, well, I want to take my relationships and I want to have my relationship with my spouse, and I want to have my relationship with my kids and my relationship with my business partner. And okay, I mean, that's fine. You can rate each one if you want. So you could have 20 or more. I don't know, whatever. But I like to keep it simple and 5. And let's say like, if we go back to the relationships one and I say, well, my relationship with my wife is a 10, but my relationship with my business partner is a 4. Well, then we are going to average that out.
Yeah.
We're going to say, okay, we're a 6 or 7. And then I can write specific. So what I do is, if something is below where I want it to be, I'll write, what do I need to focus on in order to improve that number? So for instance, under the relationships, and if it was that my wife and I are a 10, this business partner and I are a 6, why are my business partner and I a 6? What do I need to work on? Oh, we need to come to an agreement on this thing in order for that relationship to improve. Okay, so I need to write that down as something I need to do in order to raise that. Sometimes it's health and fitness, and I like to go with the 1 degree of change. And 1 degree of change for me is, what is one small incremental thing that I can change that's simple, that's easy, that will help me move in the right direction, that will help that number go back up to as close to a 10 as possible. And that's where people mess up. I do have an online program called Think and Lose Weight, and it's the mentality of weight loss. It's I always say weight loss is really simple. It's just not easy. It's not easy because you have to change who you are. You have to change your habits, your standards of living. That's who you are as a person, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable to you. And so what I tell people is, if you wrote down, because we all inevitably, we know the things that we do that make us gain weight. Like everybody just, we know what they are.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, write down all the things that you're doing that are not helping you move in the direction you want to move. And they go, oh my gosh, I'm drinking too much soda. I'm drinking too much alcohol. I'm eating too many carbs. I'm whatever. And they write them all out. And I say, okay, pick one. Just pick one. Are you going to reduce the amount of soda that you intake? Are you going to reduce the amount of carbs? Are you going to increase the amount of activity? Just pick one and then commit to it. And then so once you do that, a month later, pick another one. And then over a period of time, you slowly change who you are by changing your habits. And at some point you go, holy cow, I'm in a totally new position than trying to change everything at once, which just utterly sets you up for failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah. And you kind of touched on, I think my next question is, because you alluded to this or you covered this in the business side of things, but then you kind of just touched on it, that, you set these goals or these things that you're trying to achieve at the end of the year. And then, are you reflecting on each one of those monthly and realigning, or if you've achieved this, then let's go ahead and adjust that? Or is it quarterly, or, how does that look? And does that go across all five pillars?
So what I do is I write down a vision statement. So I will create goals on all those pillars, and I will create a vision statement, which then creates a paragraph.
Okay.
That is very detailed. It's down to, I can see it in my mind. I can feel it emotionally. So it becomes real to me. And then I read it every morning and every night.
Yeah.
Every morning. Night. Now that gives me a couple opportunities. If something starts to not feel like I don't know, that doesn't feel right, I'll start to change it. So it changes throughout the year.
Yeah.
As I'm doing it, but that vision is in my mind. And Steve Harvey talks about it. He goes, if you have a vision in your mind that keeps popping up, a dream that keeps popping up, that is the proof of future reality. Okay. It means if you take action toward it, you will eventually create that reality. But first you have to create that reality in your mind. So you create that vision of exactly what you want. Man, it's going to be like this. I'm going to, whatever, I'm working towards a certain thing. And you create this vision statement. It ends up being about a good paragraph. But then every day I read it, I focus on those things and I emotionalize those things. And then guess what happens? My mind, because it's trying to create this vision, will pick up things on every day. It's called the reticular activating system, but it'll pick things up day by day, moment by moment, and you will start making different decisions automatically because your brain is trying to reach that vision that you've already created in your mind.
That's powerful. Love that.
Love that. And that's exactly the way your mind works. Your mind will automatically pick up on the things that you are focusing on. So how did my business grow so quick? That's what people ask. Because I started doing these things and I started believing it was possible. And how did I believe it? Because I already had the vision in my mind. So now I know 100% I can create a business that's going to be $100 million. How do I know that? Because I'm working with people that have already sold businesses that are worth over $100 million. I'm emulating what they did, how they did it, who they did it with. I'm creating that in my mind. I already see the way it's gonna be 1 year, 3 years, 5 years from now. Like I know the trips my wife are gonna take. It's all here. Like I got it. But the joy isn't in achieving each of those things because it will change. That vision changes on a regular basis. But the joy is knowing that I'm creating something. It's in the creating.
I love that. I love that. And just to close the loop, come full circle, the vision statement, the paragraph that you created is essentially a synopsis summary of your pillar, your 5 pillar, desires, if you will. Correct? Yeah. I love it.
Exactly the way it is.
Yeah.
You can get really detailed and create a whole page, but I like to to do that synopsis, that one paragraph. So when I wake up and I'm doing something in the morning and I'm working out, I'm visualizing, I'm focusing on those things. One of my goals from 4 years ago was to participate in the fantasy baseball camp. I'm a former baseball player, and the St. Louis Cardinals are my team. If somebody's got another team,
Yeah.
sorry. I always wanted to participate in the fantasy baseball camp. Well, that is going to happen next year. We've already signed up for it, and so because I was visualizing it, I have a vision board on my phone. I constantly was thinking about it. Because I was visualizing, I took actions to make it happen. It was on my mind. It was being thought about. And so we actually, for Christmas this year, we bought a pair of cleats, and I have them sitting up on my nightstand. And every morning when I go to wake up, if I don't feel like working out, that's a reminder of you are doing this for a reason. And so then it becomes, oh, get my vision statement back out, get that back in my mind. So now I'm focusing on that. And guess what? That creates energy, and that energy turns into action, and the action turns into results. And voila, 6 months from now, I'm going to be, on a baseball field playing with a uniform on. I'm going to feel like a baseball, whatever. But that's my vision.
Yeah, I love it.
Vision first. The activity is gonna happen, but it's already happening in my mind.
I love it. Man, Greg, this has been fantastic. And tomorrow is your favorite day of the year. You're officially the last podcast of the year. So I know what you're going to be doing tomorrow. But if people wanted to learn about you, your techniques, you mentioned a couple of businesses that you have. How would they reach out, get in touch, or learn more about yourself or your services?
GregPursley.com is just my personal website. There's applications for coaching. If people want, they can apply. I don't accept a ton of people on that because time. It's just, I want people that are serious. So, if they do that, I want to make sure they're serious, because I'm not into dabbling or taking people's money to help them get where they want. I want people that take action and create the life they want. I'm into results. Not just, I'm going to say I'm going to do it. No, I want to, if you say you're going to do it, let's make it happen. But that's a good way. And then also, Instagram, Facebook, those type of things. Greg Pursley is I've got different things there, like, but just, that's the easiest way. But Think and Lose Weight is a brand of mine. Dr. G's personal coaching is a brand of mine. But, and then I own an integrated medical clinic. But the best ways to reach me, go to my website and go to Instagram or Facebook. You can direct message me on either of those, and either me or my team will respond. But I'm pretty good about, people that are having questions. I really want to help them answer their questions. So
I love it. Greg, many thanks. And I think you're going to help a lot of people with the tidbits that you shared here today. So I know I'm going to sit down and start doing my pillars now too. So I love it.
Well, that's awesome. Well, hey, share how you did, or share them with me. I love seeing people that take action on them and how it changes their life over time. Because when you're focusing on it, it's amazing how it starts to change. You start to realize it's simpler than you think. And I would like to leave you with this. Tony Robbins taught me this years ago, and it's the secret of happiness. And I know people generally want, like, if you surveyed everybody in the world, I think the common denominator would be, I just want to be happy or happier. And so the secret of happiness is, if you're where you're at in life, okay, and if you look at the 5 pillars, you can say individually, where am I at in my business? Where am I at in my finances? Where am I at in my relationships? But your life condition, LC, life condition, does it equal your blueprint, your BP, or the way you think life should be? So if your life condition equals the blueprint, you have happiness. If your life condition does not equal your blueprint, you have unhappiness or discontent. If you want to take it a step further, there's depression and hopelessness. And that is simply when your life condition does not equal how you thought it would be or your blueprint, and you have no hope it will ever change. Okay.
Love that. Yeah.
That's depression. That's hopelessness. It's just, I'm unhappy where it is, but it's not going to change. And you have no energy to even change it because it's just not going to change. And that goes into your belief system. Do you believe it can change? Right. And that's a whole nother thing. But if you wrote those things down and really looked at those 5 pillars and asked yourself, in my relationships, is my life condition, where my life is in my relationships, does it equal the way I thought it would be? And if it does not, then you are unhappy. If it does, then you're happy with that. And then the second question on top of that would be, okay, if I'm happy with it, how can I make it even better? If I'm unhappy with it, do I change my life condition, change the thing that you're focusing on, the life condition that you're focusing on? Or do I change the blueprint? Or the other way to say that is, do I change the way I think it should be? Do I find the joy and happiness in the way it is? And we didn't even get into this, but my son was actually born with dwarfism, which is not the way I thought it was going to go. So I had a choice. Do I try to change the life condition, which would be, in that case, I can't change him. Do I just run away?
Yeah.
Or do I change the way I believed it should be and start focusing on my own mindset and look at the positive aspect of it? And if I choose to do that, all of a sudden, I see all this amazing opportunity and benefit for him being born the way he was born, when I could have been, well, why is this? Why did it happen to me? Woe is me, whatever. So I use that as my framework, as my blueprint of, if I am unhappy with something, all I have to do is go, is it my life condition I'm happy with, or the way I thought it should be? And then you can start working on changing one of those two things.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. There's so many more questions, and I know we're running out of time here. There's so many more questions that I have for you. I think we're just going to have to do another episode one of these days to cover some more of those things. But yeah, I'm a big person to adopt frameworks and any types of ways to be able to track and measure and look at yourself, your accomplishments, your life, your plans. And you've provided so many of those. You've touched on so many of those today. So, really, really grateful for your time and the effort that you've put in over the years to be able to learn these things for yourself. So, and sharing them with everyone. So thank you. Very, very cool.
Matt, I appreciate you having me. But the last final thing, nothing happens unless you take action.
That's true. That is very true. Words to live by.
Getting the information's great. Nothing happens until you take action and step into the arena to change. Nothing happens until then.
Yeah, completely agree. Greg, many, many thanks. And we will have to do this again sometime, part 2.
Yes, sir. I'm in anytime.